22 years. 22 years of pain, 22 years of jokes, 22 years of next season, 22 years of being Netflix FC, 22 years of watching Manchester United dynasties, Chelsea's millions, and Manchester City's machines. Well, Liverpool is whatever. I don't like talking about Liverpool, but we are here to talk about Arsenal. That's the focus. Why fans held to the memories of Arsene Wenger. Why they were holding to the memories of Hybrid. They were holding the memories of Thierry Henry floating over the pitch like football belonged to him. Why they were holding the memories of the Invincibles. But today those memories are no longer present. Arsenal fans don't need to escape to past memories in order for them to find solace in their team. Now Arsenal are champions again, and one man stands at the epicenter of that win. And that is Mikel freaking Arteta. The same man people laughed at, the same man they called inexperienced, the same manager they said was too emotional, the same manager that held up the flipping bulb, the same coach who rival fans would never win the Premier League. Well, now he has. And honestly, the title means more because of everything Arsenal had to survive to get here. The collapses, the banter era, the toxic dressing rooms, the failed signings, the near misses, two allegations, and of course the heartbreak. This wasn't bought overnight. Arsenal did not spend £1 billion. They built something little by little, but it sure was present. And in this video, we are going to be going deep into how Arsenal rebuilt themselves. How Mikel Arteta went with his brick and mortar and literally started rebuilding Arsenal from the ashes. Why this title changes entirety of the football landscape, and why there is a poetic ending involving one man. Sir Alex Ferguson. And I know you might be like, bro, why are you stretching so hard to reach Sir Alex Ferguson? But bear with me. It's going to make sense at the end of this video. Because all these years, Pep Guardiola's final Premier League push ends with Mikel Arteta taking the crown, and somehow Sir Alex Ferguson remains the last manager to walk away from England as champion. Football heritage is different. So let's get it right. Who the GOAT is, let's get it right. Let's roll the intro. From banter club to believers. That's what we are focused on today. People forget how broken Arsenal were. Not struggling, they were absolutely broken. The standards had collapsed. The mentality had disappeared. The club looked emotionally exhausted. And there was talent, yes, but there was no identity. And when Mikel Arteta arrived in 2019, Arsenal were not viewed as future champions. They were viewed as a club living in nostalgia. They were thinking back, thinking and hoping the euphoria of yesteryear would absolutely help them through this time. And then Mikel Arteta started making brutal decisions. And this is where the story really begins. Because champions are not built through tactics first. They are built through standards. So Arteta walking in made one thing clear. No player is bigger than the flipping club. And not even Captain Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who? But blood clot, not even him, stood on top of that. That decision divided the football club. I was seeing it from afar. Now, I'm not an Arsenal fan, but I could see it. Every single person that I know loved to go watch TV, absolutely lose their mind when they lost. Aubameyang was loved. He was scoring goals. He was charismatic. He delivered an FA Cup. And Mikel Arteta saw something bigger. He saw a culture that needed discipline. He saw a culture that absolutely did not need egos. Then he exiled Mesut Ozil, one of the best creators in world football. At the time, he exiled him. He was like, you are not playing for us again. And then came another controversy. Because Mesut Ozil represented the final remnants of old Arsenal era. A technical, gifted superstar, but not the future Arteta envisioned. And then people mocked Arsenal for exactly that. Mikel Arteta is destroying the dressing room. Arteta, he has too much power. He's out of his depth. But now, those decisions look like the beginning of a revolution. Because every dynasty has a moment where sentiment dies and standard takes over. Sir Alex Ferguson did it. We saw Keane leave the club. We saw Veron leave the club. We saw a lot of talent. David Beckham leave the club. Pep Guardiola did it. We saw Yaya Toure out. We saw so many players leave the club for Pep Guardiola to get the team that he wanted. We saw Jose Mourinho do the same thing too. And now Mikel Arteta has done it. And that's what champions do. Let's be crystal clear. That right there is what champions do. But we can't go any further without talking about their recruitment that changed everything. This title was not won by one summer. It was years of elite recruitment, getting it right majority of the time. That is what Mikel Arteta and the recruitment people at Arsenal got perfectly. Arsenal deserve massive credit for identifying players that fit the vision instead of chasing the big names for headlines. Let's start with Declan freaking Rice. This man changed Arsenal, not because of his quality, but because of the aura that he moved with, because of the professionalism, because of his freaking standards. Remember when he says, it's not over. When Manchester City defeated Arsenal, he said it is not over. And he meant it. Because the moment Rice arrived, Arsenal stopped looking like hopeful challenges and started looking very serious. Big moments he delivered. Leadership, he was elite. Physicality, he was a monster, running left and right, side to side, front to back. And when the pressure moments arrived, Declan Rice became the emotional engine of the football club. And then there was Gabriel Magalhães, one of the most underrated defenders in the world. He arguably should be the best, regarded as the best defender in the world of football right now. Aggressive, dominant, fearless. Yes, he does have his boneheaded times where he should have gotten red card, but that's not what we are talking about today. That's not what we are talking about. For years, Arsenal were soft. And I'm not even saying they were called soft. They were soft, but not anymore. Gabriel Magalhães represents the edge of this team that lacked for over a decade. And then came the midfield intelligence in Martin Zubimendi, the controller, a tempo dictator, and a kind of midfielder that literally makes everything tick. And this is what elite teams do. They don't just collect stars. They collect profiles. They collect and they add magic to the team in order for them to absolutely make it where teams are absolutely scared of them. And then came Let It All Work Out. I'm not a singer, don't blame me. But Eberechi Eze arrived at his hometown, arrived at his boyhood club, arrived, and every single person understood. Arsenal are a complete side. They do not lack anything. Depth and absolutely their first 11 is so mint. Eberechi Eze brought unpredictability. You never understood what kind of footballer he was going to turn out, but we knew for one thing for sure. He was a talented footballer. And this kind of footballer can change ones and can change games with one touch of the ball, one dribble, one moment of imagination. Every elite title winning team needs structure, but it also needs the artist that would absolutely carve things out of nowhere. And Eze gave Arsenal that flair. But then came the final piece. The killer. The Bane. The one that wore the mask. And I'm telling people this because a lot of people are not going to give him the credit. But the big moments this season, at the end of the season, he stepped up. Viktor flipping Gyökeres. The striker Arsenal had been crying out for. Powerful, relentless, clinical, obsessed on getting the ball in the back of the net. For years, Arsenal were beautiful, but incomplete. Too many pretty moves, too many ballet players, too many people that want to stand on their tippy toes and absolutely float into the 18-yard box, putting the ball in the back of the net. When they realized that they needed somebody that is brute force, they needed someone that would do anything to put the ball in the back of the net. They needed somebody that would absolutely die on that pitch. They went and got Viktor Gyökeres, and suddenly Arsenal had a striker that terrified defenders. And once that happened, the league was in trouble. And nobody can say otherwise. But to be honest with you, the most important thing that I would give credit to Mikel Arteta has to be the mentality shift of Arsenal players. We all know that Arsenal have been scarred by always coming second, always being the bridesmaid, never the bride, always coming the person, the runner-up. But talent alone does not win the Premier League. And Mikel Arteta understood that. Mentality does. And this is Mikel Arteta's greatest achievement. Remember the previous title races. Arsenal would start brilliantly and then fade. The pressure consumed them. People called them butlers. We all know that this is people that brought out bottles with Arsenal's name on it. Rival fans weaponized every collapse. And don't get me wrong, I put my hands up. I also laughed at it. And honestly, some of it was deserved. I'm not even going to lie to you. It was. But experience matters. Failure is only part of greatness. We need to recognize that. It's also part of the journey to get to the position that we are at right now. Those painful seasons hardened Arsenal. Every late collapse, every painful draw, every decisive mistake, and every social media joke built scars that we saw absolutely prevailed in this title race. The champions need scars. They do. This season, Arsenal looked different emotionally. They looked cold. They looked focused. They looked mature. They stopped playing like dreamers. They started playing like predators. All they wanted to do was put the ball in the back of the net. They did not care how it got in there. They just put the ball in the flipping net. Even when injuries hit them. Even when the pressure exploded. Even when Manchester City started chasing. Arsenal did not blink. They did not absolutely blink. That's the difference. The old Arsenal hoped, while this new Arsenal expected that they were going to win it. And that belief came directly from Arteta. And we need to give him the credit. And that credit absolutely is what makes him the manager of the season. And you could see it at the touchline. The energy, the demands, the standards, the obsession. Even when the player does the right thing, he's still hammering them because it is not the thing that he told them to do. And that right there makes all the difference. The standard of understanding and making sure that everything goes in the right moment. That's Arsenal for you. That's Mikel Arteta for you. So people used to laugh when cameras caught him over celebrating throw-ins. Who's laughing now? Because every tiny detail mattered to Mikel Arteta. What's this guy's name that would join Manchester United? Days Bradford. He has a saying. It's the miniature details. I think he has it. He says something different, but it means the same thing. It's all about the tiny details. If you change the tiny details, you will obviously change the big ones. If you save on your pennies, you will save your millions. It's as simple as that. And that is the mentality that Mikel Arteta took with these boys. And it absolutely brought magic. Every deal, every sprint, every recovery run was such a big deal that even when Eze was playing right, if he missed his duties recovering back in defense, he would not play the next game. And that was very impressive. From someone that doesn't support Arsenal, looking at it from far, I questioned, why isn't Eze absolutely playing over Odegaard? And then I realized that Odegaard would always run back, would always do his defensive duties, while Eze sometimes will fall asleep. Eze wants to get the ball and go forward. And when I realized that, I started looking at Eze. And then the second half of the season, things changed. Eze started running back. Eze realized that this coach is not going to bulge. This coach is not going to bend because of his brilliance going forward. He is going to demand you go back because 11 go, 11 comes back. That is Mikel Arteta for you. He built a culture where standards became unnegotiable. And now Arsenal are champions because of it. Pep, the student, and the poetry of football. It's funny, it's so ironic because what we have just watched right now is just straight up poetry. Because football scripts don't get any better than this. For years, Pep Guardiola ruled England, ruled football. He didn't just dominate, he suffocated the league throughout. 4 league titles in a row, a treble, historical football, groundbreaking dominance. Managers came and failed again and again and again. But a man who dethroned Pep Guardiola was his own student. On the last day, in the last opportunity for Pep Guardiola to go out in a chariot with glory that he has won a Premier League again, his own student, Mikel Arteta, has dethroned Pep Guardiola. A coach Pep trusted deeply at Manchester City. A tactical disciple. A man obsessed with detail. We all remember when Pep Guardiola said, look, Man City will score against Arsenal, and this man would never celebrate. But he will celebrate against every other team but Arsenal. And guess what? Mikel Arteta also played for Everton. But Arsenal, he never celebrated. And final push for one more Premier League title. It's Arteta who takes the crown away from him. This is cinema. But wait, it even gets crazier, because despite Pep's dominance, despite changing football forever, despite arguably being the greatest Premier League manager, dependable or arguable, Pep still does not leave England on his final year as a champion. Only one person has done it. Do you know who remains the last manager to walk away after winning the Premier League title? Say it with me. Say it with me. Sir Alex Ferguson, 2013. The final boss. The legacy that just became even more ridiculous. Because football has changed dramatically since then. Different eras, different spending, different tactical revolutions. Yet somehow Sir Alex Ferguson still walked out on top. And now Pep's final chapter ends with Arsenal rising again. Football heritage is different. It just is. So what does this title mean? Is this title bigger than just one trophy? This title changes Arsenal forever. I feel like this group of players have now tasted success. And my scare is that they will go to Budapest and also bring the Champions League title. That's my fear, because they have tasted success. And in that success, I know for a fact that Mikel Arteta will not let them celebrate way too much, because they still have one game to play. One more game that means the world. The Champions League final. Because once a young team figure out how to win, they become very dangerous. And Arsenal, look at the core of Arsenal players. Look at the core that they possess. Declan Rice is entering his prime. Saka is still young. Saliba is elite. Gabriel is elite. Gyokeres is hungry. Eze is magical. Zubimendi is still controlling games of football. This doesn't feel like an end. It feels like the beginning of Arsenal's dynasty. And that right there should terrify every single Premier League team. Because Arsenal are no longer chasing standards. They are the standards now. And that is what Mikel Arteta has created. Not just a good team, a modern powerhouse. And Arsenal fans deserve this moment. Through all the memes, through all the disappointment, all the false dawns, they waited. And now the red side of North London stands at the top of England again. 22 years later, they have done it yet again. So give Mikel Arteta his flowers, because rebuilding Arsenal was one of the hardest jobs in football, and he has completed it. From removing club legends to surviving the criticisms of his own fan base, because we all heard Arteta up, to building an elite culture, dethroning his mentor, an official. Now Mikel Arteta has officially written himself into the folklore of Arsenal history forever. The man that got over the banter era. The man that absolutely made the wait worth it. The man that made Arsenal Premier League champions again. And football officially has a new era on its hands. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and tell me in the comments, where does this Arsenal title rank among the greatest Premier League triumphs ever? And one more thing, do you think this is just the beginning of Arsenal's dynasty? I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.